When was the last time you felt like the main character in your life? If you're anything like me, I recently looked up and realized I had become a supporting character. That's what this video is about. We're going to talk about the mindset shift that changed how I see myself as a working mom. And I'm going to give you 5 really practical tips you can start implementing this week to reclaim that feeling. I think a lot of other working moms are living as supporting characters and don't even realize it. So I want to ask you, what if you treated yourself like the main character of your own life? This doesn't mean you need to live in a selfish way, certainly not in a way that ignores your family or your responsibilities. But it means you live in a way that says, I matter in this story too. So if you're ready, let's get into it. So let's start with what I even mean when I say main character energy, because I don't want this to feel like a buzzword and sound annoying. Think about your favorite book or movie. The main character isn't always the loudest person in the room. They're not always the most confident, but they are the one whose inner life we follow. They're the one the story is centered around. They have goals, they have struggles, they grow, and the whole story moves because of them. And here's the thing about main characters that I think we forget. While they still serve and love others, they are also allowed to want things. They're allowed to have a bad day and still be the hero of their story. In fact, I think most protagonists have bad days. They are allowed to need something and go after it. Now think about your own life. Whose story is it? Because if you're like most working moms I know, you're doing an incredible job of making sure everyone else's story goes well. Your kids are fed and loved, your team is supported, your household is running, but you're somewhere in the background making it all happen, and nobody is treating you like the main character, including yourself. And I think that last part is the hardest to admit. It's easy to point to all the external demands on our time and say, that's why I don't have space for myself. And yes, those demands are real. But somewhere along the way, a lot of us stopped believing we deserved that space at all. We stopped putting ourselves on the list. Not because life was too busy, but because we had quietly decided that everyone else's needs were more urgent than our own. This is what I mean when I say we've become supporting characters. It's not just about time, it's about how we see ourselves in our own story. Main character energy isn't about being selfish, it's about being the protagonist of your own life. It's about making decisions from a place of this is who I am and what I value instead of what does everyone else need from me right now. Think about what that could look like on an ordinary Tuesday. Instead of waking up and immediately going into mom mode and work mode, what if you took 5 minutes first just for you? Instead of saying yes to one more thing you don't have capacity for, what if you paused and asked yourself whether it actually aligned with what you want? Instead of collapsing at the end of the day feeling invisible, what if you ended it feeling like someone who lived intentionally? That's the difference. And it starts not with a complete life overhaul. It starts with a shift in how you see yourself. It's a small shift in perspective, but it changes everything. So how does this happen? How does a woman who is clearly capable, driven, and passionate end up feeling invisible in her own life? I think it happens gradually, and I think it happens because we're really good at adapting. We adapt to the demands of motherhood, we adapt to the demands of our careers, and somewhere in all that adapting, we stop asking ourselves what we value. We stop making space for those things, and eventually, we stop expecting that time. And the tricky part is, it doesn't feel like losing yourself in the moment. It feels like being responsible. It feels like being a good mom. Every individual choice makes sense. Of course you skipped the gym this week, your kid was sick. Of course you didn't finish that personal project, work was crazy. Of course you canceled plans with your friends, something came up. Each one of those decisions is completely reasonable on its own. But when you zoom out and look at the pattern, weeks, months, maybe years, of consistently putting yourself last, that's when you realize something has quietly shifted. You stopped being a person with a life and started being a function in everyone else's. And here's what I want to be really clear about. This is not choosing yourself over your kids. That framing is actually part of the problem. It sets up this false choice of whether you're a devoted mom or a woman with her own identity, and you can only pick one. That's not real, and it's never been real. The truth is, the time you spend being intentional about who you are doesn't take away from your kids. It actually makes the time you have with them better. When you've had a moment to breathe, to think, to feel like yourself, You show up to the dinner table more present. You have more patience at bedtime. You're not going through the motions, you're actually there. The goal isn't more time away from your family. The goal is to use the time you already have in a way that fills you up instead of draining you. There's also this quiet cultural message that working moms receive, that wanting things for yourself is somehow in conflict with being a good mom. That if you're focused on your own goals, your own identity, and you're taking something away from your family. And this message is everywhere. It's the guilt we feel when we enjoy something that has nothing to do with our kids. It's in the way we over-explain and over-justify every decision we make for ourselves, as if we need permission to exist outside of our roles. And I want to call that out because it's simply not true. Here's what I've actually found. When I am intentional about how I spend my time, when I protect small pockets of my day that restore me, I am so much more present for everything else. I am a more patient mom, I am more engaged at work, I have more to give, not less, because I'm not running on fumes. That version of me that feels like herself is a better mom, not a worse one. Those two things are not in competition. So the first step isn't a new routine or a productivity system. The first step is just recognizing it and realizing I've been living like a supporting character in my own life. And I think the people I love most deserve the main character version of me. That acknowledgement alone is more powerful than you think, because you cannot rewrite a story you don't realize you're telling. Okay, so here's the mindset shift you can make. And it's simple, but it's not easy. Start narrating your life like a story you actually want to watch. I know that sounds a little abstract, so let me explain what I mean. I started asking myself, if someone were watching my day as a movie, would they be rooting for me? Would they see me as a woman who was living intentionally, who knew what she wanted, who was moving towards something? Or would they see someone just reacting to everything around her with no clear sense of what her own story was about? That question was uncomfortable because I wasn't sure where I stood on it. So I started making small shifts. Instead of waking up and immediately checking my phone, which instantly put me in reactive mode, I started giving myself 5 minutes first. Just 5 minutes to think about what I wanted my day to look like. What kind of mom did I want to be today? What kind of professional? What was one thing I could do today that would help me and my family? And here's what I noticed. When I started treating my own life like something worth paying attention to, I started making different choices. I started protecting my time differently. I started saying no to things that didn't align with who I wanted to be. Not because I read a self-help book that told me to, but because I had started to see myself as someone whose story mattered. And when you start treating yourself like the main character, you will start to see others as the main character of their story. As I started trying to make the most out of life and focus on what really mattered to me, I was a kinder and more patient wife and mother. I actually started to enjoy the challenges of motherhood and recognize them as learning opportunities. This also came at a time when my son started learning and growing very quickly, and I realized how much of his story had not been written yet, and what a big part I play in his story. That is the mindset shift, and it starts with one simple question. What would the main character do here? Okay, let's get practical, because a mindset shift without action is just a nice idea. So here are 5 things you can start doing this week to actually feel like the main character of your own life. Tip 1 is to dress intentionally every day. I know this sounds small and maybe inconsequential, but the way we dress is one of the most immediate ways we communicate to ourselves and to the world who we are. When I'm in an uncomfortable outfit for the 3rd day in a row, I feel like a background character. When I put on something that makes me feel like myself, something shifts. This doesn't mean wearing heels to the school drop-off, it just means being intentional. Choosing something that makes you feel like you. For me, this can be my all-pink sweatsuit in the evenings. I love wearing the same outfits over and over again if I love them. Main characters have a look. Decide what yours is. Tip 2, protect one non-negotiable thing that is just yours. What is one thing in your day or your week that belongs completely to you? Not to your kids, not to work, just yours. It could be a workout, a hobby, reading or writing, a phone call with your best friend. Whatever it is, put it on the calendar and protect it like a meeting you cannot miss. Because here's the thing, the main character always has something that is just hers. It's what keeps her grounded and reminds her of who she is outside of all her roles. Tip 3. Start your day before everyone else needs you, even if it's just 10 minutes. Before the kids wake up, before you check your email, before the day pulls you in 100 directions, give yourself 10 minutes. Sit with your thoughts, journal, read, think about what you want today to look like. Those 10 minutes set the tone for everything that follows. They remind you that you are a person, not just a function. Tip 4. Say no without apologizing. Main characters have boundaries. They know what they're about, and they don't say yes to everything. I used to over-explain every single no I gave, like I owed everyone a detailed reason for why I couldn't do something, and I don't do that anymore. No, that doesn't work for me is a complete sentence. Practice it, it gets easier, I promise. Tip 5. Reflect on and celebrate your own wins. Working moms are amazing at celebrating everyone else. We celebrate our kids' milestones, our team's achievements, our partners' promotions. But when was the last time you stopped and said, I did something really hard today and I'm proud of myself? Start small. At the end of each day, name one thing you did well. Not perfectly, just well. That practice builds a relationship with yourself that feels like the main character energy we're talking about. Also consider a reversed vision board. This is when you create a vision board of the past instead of the future. It covers what you have accomplished, not what you hope to accomplish. This can help you remember how far you have come, what led to the choices you made, and what your values are. Also consider a past vision board. This is when you create a vision board of the past instead of the future. It covers what you have accomplished, not what you hope to accomplish. This can help you remember how far you have come, what led to the choices you made, and what your values are. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. You are not a supporting character in your own life. You are the main character, and the story gets so much better when you start living like it. You don't have to do it all at once. Start with one thing from today's list. Protect 1 hour, say no once, dress like yourself tomorrow morning, and notice how it feels. Because I genuinely believe that working moms are some of the most capable, resilient, extraordinary people, and you deserve to feel that way about yourself too. If this video resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with another working mom who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe because I make videos like this every other week. All for working moms who are trying to build a life they actually love. I'll see you in the next one.